Fuck yeah, dude. I mean, freak yeah.
Can you just like do the alphabet real quick, like A B C D?
You want me to do the alphabet, the
Yeah.
whole thing? Did you want it English or Spanish?
Uh, Please do English. Don't do me like this.
Okay. A, B. Can you
All
make
right,
my
you want
voice
to just
a little
talk one more
deeper?
time for me, so I can make sure that we're like even. I don't want to like overdo
Yeah,
you.
no, I could talk. I could talk the whole time. If you want to make my voice deeper, that'd be pretty cool too. Put a
I
little bit of like sex appeal on it.
Yeah, I could do that. I got you.
Nice and smooth. All right, my whole intro is in Spanish. Is that okay?
Yeah, fuck it. Let's do it live. I can edit this out. Don't worry. I just where you at, Kevin? You're not talking. What do you mean we're blowing it? You're not talking, Kevin. I need you. Come back. Hello. We are currently having technical difficulties.
Hello.
Hello, Kevin. How's it going, buddy?
There we go. What the hell? This is like top 10 biggest fears. Let me try and do this again.
All right, guys. This is our starting podcast of the Combat Chat, episode 1. We're just a couple of guys who like to put our opinions into UFC and watch the fights. And basically, that's just what we do. We have a little fighting experience, but it should be well. And my name is Brock.
I'm Kevin.
Perfect, Kevin. All right, let's start off today's talk with the Israeli Adesanya. His big win over the weekend. I think he had the biggest win over the weekend. I just want to get this out of the way. He said to Dana White, I'm going to come in, storm the UFC. I'm going to win straight off the bat. I'm going to change the world at 221 and then went in. I'm not sure if he did so, but he was very impressive in his fight, very clean. And I think he should start facing like top 20 contenders.
So here's my issue with that. So like you say that's the biggest one of the week, would you say?
Yeah, close to. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I definitely understand the hype behind the kid, and don't get me wrong, like I'm not taking anything away from his win, but at the end of the day, we're looking at a guy who UFC debut, awesome, came out, but who did he fight?
He fought pretty much a no-name or like like
Yeah,
kind of like Sage
he fought a
Northcutt
local guy.
Open.
Yeah, he fought a local guy, which was cool. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not taking anything away from him. And he showed great takedown defense. Um, but his only other notable win that he has is against Melvin Gillard. I don't know if you watched that fight, but Melvin was able to get him in some trouble, and Melvin is what, a 155 pounder.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think a lot of people we're just getting ahead of ourselves by saying that this guy is the next big thing. I mean, if you go back a while ago, people were comparing Philip Nover to Anderson Silva, like they're doing with this guy right now. And what did Philip Nover do? He wasn't even ranked top 15. So I personally want to see what he can do with, and this is usually how it is for most strikers, what he could do with a good grappler, a guy that's very versatile. Personally, who I'd like to see him fight next, if we're going to give him a name, I don't know if it's kind of like feeding him up too soon, or to be honest, a lot of people could look at it as giving him just like an old dog if you match him up with Johnny Hendricks.
Oh man, I would not put him against Johnny Hendricks. What's funny about that, about saying Johnny Hendricks is the fact that he actually weighed in 3 pounds under, which is perfectly allowed. Is if you weigh under your weight class, that's fine.
Yeah.
But his opponent did not make weight, and he still was able to put on such a good show. And it's funny you say Johnny Hendricks because Johnny Hendricks can barely make the weight. So it'd be
Johnny
funny
Hendricks
if he weighed in like 10 pounds under again, and Johnny Hendricks was like 5 over.
But exactly, I mean, if Johnny Hendrickson comes out and he fights like he would, even like a Tim Bodish or something like that, not nobody in the top 15, not anytime soon. I don't think we should be talking about titles or how he matches up with anybody in the top 15 right now, just because it was his first fight, his first win off of a not necessarily a nobody, but an unknown.
Yeah, I agree with that. On to our next one. We have, the middleweight category hasn't really been updated yet because UFC's slacking. But we have Yoel Romero, who's obviously staying at 1. Do you think Luke Rockhold's going to drop it all after this fight?
I mean, he's fighting the number one contender, or he fought the number one contender and he got KO'd. Number 3 is Jacare Souza, I believe. Rockhold's got a win over him. Sometimes the rankings don't make sense. If he does drop, I believe it's undeserved. I feel like the middleweight rankings are going to be stagnant after this. Um, and I don't know, can you really affect the middleweight rankings at all, considering it was considered a catchweight fight with Romero not making weight?
That's what I was gonna say. Romero missed weight by 3.3 pounds and still wasn't is only able to lose about zero point 0.3 pounds for the time he gave him. But what's weird is if you think about it, Romero's pretty much beat everybody who's beat he's beat the people who beat the people. And so his only outcome really is Whitaker, but I don't see if that's fair. But since Luke lost his fight, would you place him against maybe like Derek Brunson?
You want to know what? That's funny. I was just thinking about that. So Derek Brunson coming off the KO loss to Jacare Souza,
Mm-hmm.
and Rockhold coming off the loss. I think that's the perfect matchup for both of those fighters, just because a lot of guys are just getting in there way too quickly. That's the problem. Is these guys are getting KO'd and trying to hop back in. If Luke hops in just to fill in against a Weidman or to fill in even against a Gastelum anytime soon, it's gonna probably end up like the Bisping situation. Was that awesome that Bisping took the fight in 3 weeks? Yeah, but he had to make weight 3 times, so the brain's getting dehydrated.
And he had that chin too.
Yeah, and that's the thing is Rockhold is concussed. We can't let you can't let the fighters come in after being concussed. Rockhold needs to take 6 months off at the very least and match up with Brunson. But that's the thing is a lot of moving pieces can happen
So
during
he
that.
Yeah, that's the weird thing is, we still have Chris at rank 4, which I don't think Chris can go anywhere because he hasn't lost, he hasn't won,
Yeah,
but he can just slowly deteriorate off there from just like the decay of not fighting, but he's not gonna face him. He's not gonna face Kelvin.
no,
Bisping's what 6 or 7, so you can't put him there. So we have only Derek Brunson because you don't want to move him down any further. And what's
yeah.
funny
Bisping doesn't
about
want
that is behind that is Uriah Hall, who is actually talking about coming back to the UFC.
Well, Uriah Hall is actually, I believe he's matched up with Paulo Costa, the eraser, the guy that just came off the KO win over Johnny Hendricks.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that.
I think I think he's just, they're feeding him to the Lions, and it's just another guy that Paulo Costa is going to be able to build his name off of. But Bisping doesn't want the fight with Rockhold. Bisping almost wants like a for sure thing in a retirement fight. Um, I don't know. I feel like
You think Bisping and Lyoto Machida would ever match it up?
uh, I feel like that fight would be a little bit more likely, but Bisping is also coming to say that he doesn't want to fight him. Bisping's being very picky about the USADA thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though Machida turned himself in, though, that's the problem. He was taking DHEA or 7 keto DHEA or something like that. Something you could buy at a GNC.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Wasn't it like a skin rub kind of thing?
no. That was Chad Mendes that you're
Oh,
talking about.
yeah, absolutely.
So, but no, I feel like you match Rockhold up with Brunson, but that's the thing is like okay, so let's say Rockhold takes 6 months off, and he's not doing any heavy contact or any like true sparring for 6 months. So then we match him up somewhere and put him into a camp, which could be anywhere from 12 to 8 weeks. That's another 3 months down the line. So now we're talking 9 months. Do you know how many fights happen in 9 months? How many fights in the middleweight division, let alone, could be in 9 months?
Yeah, the most busy division, the most constantly changing, lethal, scary division there is in the UFC, and that's
And
what I was saying. They have to fight. These people have to fight quick.
Yeah, and that's the problem now that or not necessarily the problem, but that's a huge thing that people aren't really taking into consideration is with USADA being implemented, these guys aren't recovering as fast. These guys they need the time off, or a lot of people are pulling out. Look at Whitaker. Whitaker pulls out of the fight. So essentially, does Romero get the title shot? That's the biggest thing that people want to know.
And I say with the missing weight, he shouldn't. But if you look at who he has to face, he only has Whitaker. He
The
can't
only
drop down to like a number 15 fighter.
So here's the thing. There's one guy that can fight Romero, and it's a big risk for him, or it's a big risk for Romero, because Romero, in his eyes and a lot of the fans' eyes, he deserves the title shot. You know what I'm saying? Like you come off your second KO finish of another former champion, in devastating fashion. So it wouldn't surprise me if UFC gives him the title shot, because however many people saw that, they're gonna buy the pay-per-view again to see Romero knock somebody out. That guy's a physical specimen.
Oh no,
You know
he's
what
a
I'm
monster.
saying? I mean, I'm pretty sure the United States regrets opening up their borders to Cuba because we let this Cuban come in and he's knocking out everybody in his fucking way
Just
now.
destroying
Yeah,
everybody. They're like, we could
yeah,
take this guy, but no, no.
killing everybody, man. And he's a funny guy too. You know, you can market behind him. But if Romero wants to take another fight, if the UFC's like, you know what, you have to take one more fight, and if you win and you could prove that you can make middleweight, because we don't know if this is why he missed weight. You know what I'm saying?
That's true, just because of the small amount of like time he had, and he didn't have his full camp.
Yeah, he didn't have his full camp, but I mean, the fight's been on for a while. You know what I'm saying?
Why don't you
Like
just put him against Chris, since Chris is nonstop hollering?
no, Chris, that's not. That's the thing, though, is that was such a devastating KO, and it's not even like Weidman was necessarily winning the fight. The first round was close. The second round, I give it to Romero, and Romero hit him with that nasty inside trip. The only dude for Romero to fight is Kelvin Gastelum, dude.
Yeah, and I don't see Kelvin touching that, honestly.
I don't see Kelvin winning. Uh,
But that
but
puts him in like a spot if he can make that weight that moves him into Whitaker.
but could you imagine of how big of an upset that would be if Kelvin Gastelum finishes Romero, or Kelvin Gastelum even beats Romero?
Which would probably drop Romero to like third, and Kelvin could take second.
Exactly. But whatever they decide to do, if he fights Whitaker again, who do you think takes that rematch?
So this is something I was talking about with a couple of my MMA buddies actually in our like little Reddit chat. I think that when it comes to younger fighters in rematches, if they beat the person before, it now increases their chance of winning. They win again, but just faster.
Mm-hmm.
I do not see Romero beating Whitaker with how the last fight went.
So here's my thing. If you asked me that question last week, I had the same answer. You know what I mean? Whitaker, he used the distance. He was a good striker and everything like that. But if we really just sit here and think about it, all it takes is one punch.
It's true.
I'm going to take Romero in the rematch. He's older. That has nothing to, being older and being stronger doesn't necessarily have anything to do with his chances. But, man, he hit Rockhold with a freaking brick, man. If he
It
can
just
catch Whitaker
shattered
with that,
him, yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Whitaker's coming off the very long layoff and, things along that line. I'm surprised Rockhold didn't do anything to try and take it down to the ground. Again, this feels like easier said than done. I feel like Rockhold was fighting a perfect fight till that exchange, and that's the thing is Romero is the better athlete. He's explosive, and that's something that Whitaker is going to have to deal with again. Romero came off the gas a little bit. If Romero can just get one more solid round, Romero's the champion right now.
Yeah.
Looking
Yeah, I
at this
think,
for the
yeah, 'cause he was
regular.
definitely outwearing him at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Romero won the first two rounds. It was a very close fight, don't get me wrong. And, I mean, Whitaker had that freaking, what was it, like a dislocated knee or a torn MCL or something halfway through the
Dislocated
fight.
his knee, yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing that people have to take into considerations.
Yeah, and how's his defense gonna be after he comes back? And I'm like, not rested, not a worn in shin or anything like that.
Now, the one thing, like when we go back to the whole missing weight thing, uh, was it because, the fight, he didn't get his full camp in? Was it because another thing that a lot of people, I don't know if everybody knows, but the other day, Australia did it the same way that they used to do it. The ceremonial weigh-in was the actual weigh-in.
Yep. They didn't
And
do the weigh-in before, then you get the 2 days
exactly.
rest.
And they've been doing that since UFC 199, I think, when Bisping and Rockhold fought the second time.
Correct.
So Romero has fought how many times since then? Twice? So his body might just be acclimated to that. His team might just be acclimated to that. Weighing in at 10 a.m. and then fighting the next night at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. or something like that, and then weighing in at 6 p.m. and then fighting the next day at 10 p.m. That's vital time. That's 8 hours. I don't know why he missed weight. It could be because he's getting older. I mean, he has a very very highly. He has a lot of credentials in amateur wrestling, whether that came from the Olympics and even before that, I'm sure. So he's been cutting weight for a while. But I don't understand how he only loses point 0.3 in 2 hours.
That was my biggest issue too.
I think the guy. I think it was smart. Why am I gonna tire myself out more? Why am I gonna dehydrate myself more? If I win this fight, I'm still the true number one contender.
Yeah, and there's like I said, there's nobody can go back to face except for maybe Kelvin.
So, yeah, I don't know exactly what's gonna go on with the middleweight division. I do have some ideas. We'll see how it plays out. Moving on to that co-main event, though. Any surprise when you saw Blades versus Hunt?
So this is actually the biggest winner in my book. I predicted it going to the ground, and if it did, Mark Hunt was gonna 100% lose, especially after Dana White rejected his like last 4 fights, so he had like some ring rust going on. But I didn't expect him to dominate that much. I was looking at the scorecards actually earlier today. He won like 2 rounds like by 2 points, which is normally not a common thing in co-main events.
No, and Curtis went in there and dominated. I feel like it was the perfect matchup. I think Curtis took a little bit more damage than he probably should have. The dude's a JUCO national champ. He's a junior college national wrestling champ. And just to name off a couple other guys that did that, your Brock Lesnar's, your John Jones. I believe even Anthony Johnson was a JUCO national champ. So these are guys that are champions, contenders. His wrestling is no joke. And Mark Hunt, I mean, we saw what Stipe did to him. We've seen what Brock Lesnar has done to him. His wrestling's never been on point. So
True.
I thought it was a very I wasn't surprised. When he started trading with him, I got a little bit nervous, but I feel like Mark Hunt's he's on his way out of the game.
So
And I feel like he's just looking for one more win in Australia. You know what I'm saying?
Ironically, that's what I was just going to talk about. Is I didn't want to talk about. I didn't want to finish who I thought Curtis Blades was going to face next, but I want to talk about Mark real quick because it's a faster conversation. I see either Mark Hunt retiring now or facing someone who's on the lower end of like the top 15, like Justin Willis.
Yeah, I mean, you could have him fight Justin Willis or have him fight what's it called, the the loser of Derek Lewis versus I believe he's fighting Tibura.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy that just came off the 5-round war with Fabricio, which I mean, that can go either way as well. For Curtis Blades, I mean, it all depends what the UFC truly wants to do. Is it a big win against Mark Hunt? Yes, but what everyone's got to realize is Mark Hunt is more of like a fan favorite. You know what I'm saying? The walk-off KOs.
That's what I was saying. Is in his videos, he was even talking about how he's like, I've been fighting for 30 years, and he was talking about kind of just wanting to dim out. So I do see him taking on like the loser of the fight to either go out and win, and if he loses, I don't see him pushing past 1 or 2 more fights if he doesn't retire. As for Curtis Blades, the Cain Velasquez win was good, but I don't think it's good enough to break top 5. I see them putting him against Cain Velasquez.
No way, dude. If they put him up against Cain Velasquez, it's going to be a 100% comeback fight for Cain.
Correct, and that gets the people going because I think that they like Cain more than they do Curtis, so it's a win-win situation. Either Curtis becomes one of the new scariest people up in the top 5, or Cain makes his big return until he has to retire.
See, I never even thought of that. So now if I'm Curtis's team, I'm watching that Derek Lewis Tibura fight, and I'm taking the winner of that. I'm taking the winner of that, and then you could take some time off because, I mean, Cain Velasquez, I'm sure when he comes back, they're going to have him fight a top 3. What we got to remember is we don't know when Cain's coming back, but we do know that the heavyweight division is a little bit tied up. Not getting too much into the heavyweight division, but it's tied up right now with Stipe and DC.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't Cain just come back? And again, I would understand why they wouldn't want to make this fight because it's the 3rd, 4th time they're trying to make it. Fight Verdum. You know what I'm saying? That's a tall glass of water to come back to. I will say that for sure. But that would be a better matchup. If I'm Curtis Blades, I'm looking at that Tibura Derek Lewis fight and then going somewhere else. Because that's the thing is, like, I didn't necessarily see anything impressive from Curtis Blades. Phenomenal wrestler, don't get me wrong. But
he didn't really do too much damage, just held him down and kept him isolated.
Exactly. It's not like he jabbed Mark Hunt's face off. It's not like, he looked quick or anything like that. Yes, he's getting better, but we it's just not a it's not like a crazy performance. It'll probably launch him in the top 5, maybe top 6, but again, he's just got to fight. He's got to pick good style matchups for himself. I guess he could take an Alistair Overeem, but Alistair needs to chill out too.
Yeah, All-Star's a little chinny. Also, Curtis Blades, earlier today, actually, I'm glad I looked at this before we started. He actually tweeted out that Bellator gave him an offer to go to Bellator, so he's actually currently thinking about signing in with Bellator.
And I mean, that would probably make a little bit more sense financially for him because I doubt UFC is like chomping at the bit to like, oh, we got to sign Curtis Blade.
Especially with Ultimate Fighter coming up and the DC and Stipe face off, they're probably going to kind of, like you said, freeze that category, which means he's not going to be getting any money fights. He's not going to be fighting a lot of times or getting placed to where he wants to be placed.
Yeah, and I mean, if he goes over to the Bellator heavyweight division, he's just got to, I guess, handle whatever's going on in that tournament over there. So I don't know, man. When it comes to, Curtis Blade's future, it's very, very gray right now because it's not a huge name. I would almost say going to Bellator would be a better move financially for him.
I agree. So we also have one more fight I want to talk about on that. The biggest winners and losers. Jake Matthews won his fight, which was phenomenal considering the fact that he had his eye fishhook just about out, and he didn't care at all about that. He actually talked to him on Twitter and said he's like, I don't care about the eye poke. It happens in the sport, but that was in there deep. I'd be pissed. I'm glad that he won.
Oh gosh, that looked painful. Are we trying to pronounce his opponent's last name or no?
No, I was trying to just keep that out, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to go through that. But the fact of the matter is that's a big win for him.
Huge.
Let's not even if we talk about the fish hook in the eye.
He was a Muay Thai guy who was coming off of like a steamroll of 8 wins, right? He was 11-0 or something like that.
Yeah. What's it called? Well, let's see. Looks like he was on a couple fight win streak. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fight win streak.
Yep.
So, not to take anything away from him. Am I looking at the right guy? Yeah, Li Jinglang.
Yep.
I feel like that was a good try. You know what I'm saying?
I give you 10 out of 10.
Yeah, wasn't he in the Ultimate Fighter China?
Correct. Yep. And that's where they found him. He just destroyed everybody. He was just hurting people.
Yeah, I swore he was a winner.
He was.
Okay, gotcha. I'm trying to figure out where did they say, because it should be listed under his.
He was, I believe, 6-0 outside of the UFC. They went to the UFC, and he's on like a 4-5 win spree or something like that until he faced Jake Matthews.
Yeah, I mean Jake Matthews just completely just grappled the heck out of him. He had him in a tight guillotine. I didn't really have any answers for him when it came to the grappling exchanges.
The entire restaurant went crazy when he sunk in that guillotine, repositioned his legs, and arced it back. I don't think he would have gotten out of it if it wasn't for that eye gauge or eye gouge.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Because the ref was even like trying to pry his hands out of his eyes, and like he wouldn't let go.
I thought he was trying to like see if he was like blacked out or something. I didn't really understand it. But no, that just shows the toughness of what it really takes to be in there. You have a lot of guys that would complain, but yeah, he's a tough guy for sure. And I mean, Li Jinglang, I don't really know. I don't take anything away from him doing it. It's a fight in there at the end of the day.
Brawl, absolute brawl.
The only thing I would say for him to come out of is not necessarily change camps, but I would definitely do some traveling if I was him.
Move around.
Come grapple. And that's, a lot of these guys that are coming from not the biggest MMA countries, there's he has a whole nation behind him as well because there's not a lot of Chinese MMA fighters in the UFC. But the grappling isn't the highest of qualities out there. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. So maybe put him against an averagely like well-rounded fighter and see how he does.
Not even talking about his potential matchups. I feel like after that, it snapped the 5-fight winning streak. Take some time off. Go to, a
camp to train hardcore.
Exactly. Like a Greg Jackson or an AKA would probably be his best case scenario. You even look at Francis Ngannou; he had the same issue. You know, he came in there and the wrestling wasn't there. So, again, but not getting too much into that. Jake Matthews, all hats off to him, staying tough, doing what fighters do, 100%.
Oh,
Like that was it
100%.
was a very impressive win. I was pulling for Li Jingling in that, just because my buddy had him on DraftKings. Not gonna lie.
Same.
I was just like, yeah, that guy was on the Ultimate Fighter China, and I didn't really know who Jake Matthews is. But as far as where that takes us, I have one question for you.
What is that, boss?
Let's talk about what your opinions are on this Floyd Mayweather Conor McGregor MMA.
Dude, holy crap, that was actually the topic I was going to bring up next. So, what happened was, on Twitter, Floyd reached out to Conor with like a kind of a commercial-like thing of him in the octagon with his arms spread, which I'm just quoting these tweets here real quick. I'm sorry. Conor's like, what does that mean? And then Mayweather responded, certified killer versus certified bitch. Yeah. So Conor just responds with him elbowing people and ground and pounding them like of pictures. And he said this was what actually happens in an octagon.
Yeah.
Do I think this will happen? I do, but if it does happen, Conor can't lose his belt. If it does happen, Conor's not going to fight anytime soon after that. So that means that they should just give the belt to Tony Ferguson because he is the belt holder right now, or give it to Khabib, whoever wins that fight. But it can't be for a title. And like I said, if he faces Floyd, say Floyd clips him standing up, Conor's got to be out for at least 2 more months whenever this fight actually does go through.
I honestly, I can't believe I've had to have this conversation with you.
Dude, I know, it's upsetting, honestly.
Okay, so here's the issue, okay? Do I think it's going to happen? I don't think so at all. I was doing some research. I was trying to find out what's going on with UFC and Fox. I honestly think that that's what this is. It's a money grab. It's a grab so other people will up their bid. ESPN, CBS, all these other places, they're going to bid more money if they think Money Mayweather is stepping in the octagon.
Yeah, and that's what they did. They offered him a huge salary if they could get the step up.
But come on, man. Why are we even having this conversation? You know, the thing
To someone who's like a white belt, like CM Punk, it's the same thing.
Exactly. The thing that sold McGregor versus Mayweather, okay, the boxing match, is you had arguably the best boxer of our time. I'm not gonna throw out an opinion about that. And then you had a guy in MMA who, quote, could be considered the most dangerous man around Floyd's weight on the feet.
And
So
was putting
striking-
people down.
Yeah, he was putting people down. Think about it, man. You have the Nate Diaz war, which Nate Diaz, you could say whatever you want. He might be a lightweight, and they fought at welterweight, but he's a big guy. He was a big lightweight.
Yeah.
And you have the Max Holloway fight are the only 2 people that he wasn't putting away in the UFC. Slept Poirier, slept Aldo, slept Mendez, all these things. But he was a good striker, so it was a striker versus a striker. That's what sold the boxing match, because we didn't know what would happen. Let me ask you a question. Is Floyd Mayweather the best grappler in boxing?
I looked it up. He doesn't even have a jiu-jitsu or wrestling background. I
That's a waste of a Google search, man.
I had to know if he had like maybe like some people sleep on a blue belt and you just don't know, but he's never had any type of ground exchanges. He has a little bit of a Thai background, but Thai doesn't do anything on the ground
He's
or
eating Thai
anything.
food. He doesn't have a Thai background. Come on, man. Why are we really having this conversation? Everybody knows what would happen. You got the hype from the McGregor fans. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a diehard McGregor fan, but I'm very realistic. We've had the conversations about what would happen with Khabib and Tony, which we could save that for another episode. But when Conor was stepping in there with Floyd, I had the hope and the belief that he was gonna knock him out.
And it was dead close for a boxing match amongst like the best in the world, and someone who just went in there, wasn't used to the heavy gloves, and it was very close.
It was a good fight. I think Floyd went in there trying to play around and was like, "Oh gosh, like okay, time to start winning, like time to stop messing around." But I'm gonna buy it. If that happens, I'm gonna buy it. And you know what?
I'm gonna
I'm getting
predict a couple elbows and a kick, and then I think Floyd can't recover.
I'm getting sold the circus ticket, man, and I got no problem. I'll be in the front row at Buffalo Wild Wings in Little Rock or in Sherwood, Arkansas. And you know what? I'm gonna buy a couple buckets of beer, and I'd probably put some money on it if anybody really wanted.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's gonna happen. If it does happen, Floyd's really just. I get it. He's stepping out of his comfort zone, and it might help him get some fans. But
And also,
it's
Connor has to forfeit his belt at that point. He
and that's
absolutely
another
has
thing.
to.
And you know what? Like, I think it's silly for all these other UFC fighters to kind of be chomping at the bit. You guys aren't fighting Floyd. It's not gonna happen. Mighty Mouse, I'm sorry. Yeah, would it be cool to see you? Yeah, but you're not fighting Floyd. Nobody's fighting Floyd Mayweather except Conor McGregor.
Oh yeah, no, not even
Like,
close.
brings the money. I really don't read into like comments and stuff like that when it comes to MMA, unless it's from like a reputable source like an MMA Hour, an Ariel Helwani, a Joe Rogan, or even a fighter itself. When it comes to just the fans, don't get me wrong, I am a fan first and foremost. But some of these guys are just completely idiotic. I looked at that picture, certified killer versus certified bitch. Somebody commented something, when you go into punches, elbows, and kicks, Floyd, you're dead. And another kid came down and commented and said, that's what you guys said about the left hand, and look what happened. And it was a picture of, Floyd, TKO, and Conor. And then somebody said, come on, man, it's MMA. Like, why are we having this conversation? This kid had the audacity to say, if Floyd masters the wrestling, Conor's done. Floyd Mayweather is 41 years old.
You think he's gonna like all of a sudden become the world's best wrestler?
He doesn't master wrestling in a year. I've never been like, I've never actually had my blood boil at all, like reading Twitter comments like that. But I'm just like, this is the most idiotic thing I've ever seen.
It's like, yeah, people who think they can just get a blue belt after like a month. You don't get blue belts for like years, and then purple belts for years. Like, you just don't walk in a good wrestler, especially old.
You know what? I'll tell you. This is how Floyd Mayweather beats Conor McGregor in an MMA match. I buy UFC 3. I make my own creative character. I make him look like Floyd Mayweather. I name him Floyd. And then I, beat him in a video game. But this isn't a game. You know what I'm saying? This is legit MMA. Why are we talking about it? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, why is it even a topic that's getting spurred up?
Yeah, dude, and I have tons of people calling me and stuff like that. And that's the thing, is they say they're in negotiations, some off the site, something that's not reputable at all in Twitter. I don't even remember what it was. Somebody said that, and I said negotiations are as good as rumors. You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%, yeah.
Think about all the negotiations that were happening. What was it, December? When it ended up being Pettis versus Holloway, that card, there was negotiations, quote unquote, that Anderson Silva and GSP were gonna fight.
Yeah, like for a super fight, and there's also super fights like GSP was gonna fight like Connor. That's how Connor was gonna come back, but that doesn't happen. Yeah,
these are all things that aren't real. There's no meat to the bones on that one. You know what I'm saying? Let me see if this is it. Brobible.com. Those are the guys that said negotiations for a UFC fight between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather underway. But at the same time, think about how crazy it was when this whole Conor Floyd thing first got started.
Ironically,
back in the day,
it kind of didn't surprise me since boxing was on the downfall and UFC was on its greatest climb ever, selling its company for $5 billion.
Exactly.
So they took their best money fighter and put it against boxing's best money fighter to like mix up the fans. But doing it the other way around when you already brought the fans in, I don't see it happening.
I mean, people are gonna buy it. A lot of people don't like Floyd, and I think.
Oh yeah, I would definitely buy it. I'd be the same guy in the bar, sitting there with my like beer after beer. Like I said, I'd probably place like a couple $100 bets on it, or some like bottles of liquor or something, and I would eat the shit out of that. But I don't see it happening. I don't think he deserves to come into the UFC. I'm tired of people walking into the UFC, going against like high-end fighters and getting absolutely annihilated because they don't belong there.
I mean, like, are we really gonna just forget about James Toney versus Randy Couture? Are we really gonna forget what happened in that fight?
That's exactly what I'm thinking of. Or like any fighter where it's like UFC debut and they're facing like a top 10, or like Well, they said Justin Gaethje was gonna fight, like, he could easily become the next title fighter, but
Oh
they
my
didn't put him
god.
against anybody who was anybody. They put him against Michael Johnson, which is a 50-50 fighter, and he won the
Yeah.
50-50. But he's not gonna beat anybody else in that division.
So here's a good question: if you're Connor, how do you want to take it? You know what I mean? Let's say the fight gets made, we step into the octagon, we go in there. Are we just murking Floyd, or are we letting him live and just embarrassing him?
You know what I would do? I see Connor embarrassing him. I think Connor kicks him in the leg because Floyd only knows how to tuck his body and head. So if
Yep.
Connor drops a couple legs kicks, Floyd's gonna lose his lead leg. Floyd's gonna drop his hands to purely his body, and then it's over. And then I think either Connor sleeps him right there and embarrasses him in his own game, or maybe he just takes him to the ground and absolutely pummels him because Floyd's gonna have no idea how to get people off of him.
No, exactly. And I think if Connor takes his back, I think Connor's just going to take his hand and just push it into the mat and just start punching him from either side.
Annihilating him, absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean, people would pay to see that. A lot of people just hate Floyd Mayweather.
And they just
And
love
how
to
much,
see it get his head knocked off.
About how much do they hate him? How many dollars worth do they hate Floyd Mayweather?
Think they can sell that pay-per-view for like another $90?
Dana White says he wants to get into boxing.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, I think something that would possibly maybe make more sense if the UFC or Zuffa, I think they own Glory, and I could be wrong on that. But Glory Kickboxing, throw them in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
no.
think Floyd still gets annihilated, but I mean, it's going to get more money towards Glory Kickboxing. Probably get more people to buy UFC Fight Pass.
Yep.
So
We were just talking about the other day too, just getting big Fight Pass fights on to get more Fight Pass money.
exactly. So going into this weekend, we got UFC Austin Fight Night.
Yeah, this is on a Sunday, February 18th. It'll be a little bit.
Sunday, February 18th.
Yep, it'll be on a Sunday.
So what do you think? What do you think about that main event? We got Donald Cowboy Cerrone coming off the loss to Darren Till versus Yancy Medeiros, who is coming off a win against another guy named Cowboy, actually. A war.
Ironically, yeah, the dude wore a hat, and I'm like, this is ironic because I bet you he fights
Yeah.
Cowboy if he wins.
And Cowboy Cerrone has a win over that Cowboy name. I always mispronounce his name. He's Brazilian. I'm going to have to look this up. I can't.
I know it's the weird little face dude. I don't remember his name. He always wears a hat just like Cerrone though.
Yeah, exactly. They fought. I remember last year it was like Cowboy versus Cowboy or something like that.
Yeah, and then Cerrone just teed off on his like abs or something.
Oh, yeah. Alex Oliveira.
Yep, that's it.
Alex
I actually want Yancy to win, by the way.
Okay. Why so?
Amazing takedown defense. Cerrone hasn't been killing it in striking in this weight division. So I think against the really good strike, I think he has like a 60% knockout rating, and he lands like 5 a minute. I see him putting away Cowboy if he lost to Darren Till like that.
Yeah, 100%. What we got to remember is, Cowboy's been fighting for a long time, and he fights frequently for a long time. Yancy Medeiros is younger, but Yancy Medeiros probably takes just as much damage as Cowboy does. I feel like
He's a brawler.
It's going to be the passing of the torch, but I don't know. I think this is a very good opportunity for him to come make some noise in the welterweight division. He gets to headline a card with Cowboy, but
That'd be a good way to open him up into like pay-per-view cards, as like maybe a third fight or like a co-main event.
yeah. So I feel like Cowboy's last performance that really was good was against Robbie Lawler, which for the record I thought he lost that fight.
Agreed.
Or no, I thought Cowboy won that fight. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I thought you said
because-
Robbie lost that fight, so I was agreeing with you.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think
no.
Robbie lost too.
definitely lost that fight because Robbie was just, Cowboy, he did the right things. But when it comes down to it, Cowboy's on his way out of the game. I would like to see it at least go 3 rounds, but it wouldn't surprise me if Medeiros goes in there in the first 2 rounds and starches him.
So that's my honest opinion. At this weight, Cowboys mainly lost to striking, and believe it or not, he gets hit in the body and crumbles. And Yancey's one of the hardest kickers who always has like the spinning heel to the body. That's like the kryptonite.
Yeah, and Yancey's a legitimate welterweight. Not saying that Cowboy isn't right for the weight class, but That's the biggest thing. When you go up one weight class, so when McGregor goes from a 145 to a 155, or even, other fighters that have done that, dropped weight classes, it's 10 pounds. Even though these guys are, a little bit smaller, it's 10 pounds. How much power is going to go with this? Not 100% sure. But when you go from 155 to 170, 170 to 185, 185 to 205, you're messing with a lot of power, a lot of weight.
And that's where he just gets like out of shape and just takes too much damage, and he can't stand it.
Yeah, I mean, there were some good matchups when he fought Oliveira, when he fought Story, even the Robbie Lawler fight, he looked good. But I mean, he was getting beat up by Matt Brown before Brown ended up getting KO'd. So I don't know. I'm gonna go with Medeiros. I'm gonna agree with you on this. I'm gonna go with Medeiros. I am a Cowboy fan. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, 100%. I love Cowboy
Yeah.
till I die.
But yeah, gotta go with Medeiros on this one. And then that's you got anything else for this week, man? It looks like
I think
we're pretty
Derek
much-
Lewis is gonna win. I think Northcutt is an interesting guy
yeah.
who should not continuously be in the UFC as much as he is.
Oh man, Sage Northcutt is just a face. We know that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad someone else agrees. He just lost like 2 back-to-back fights to nobodies. Then he like barely gets a decision, and the UFC's like, let's just keep dumping money on him.
I say let's match Sage Northcutt with Artem Lobov. Winner stays.
Yeah, I'd pay for that. That could be like
Yeah,
a
come on.
That could be a main event in a pay-per-view, and I'd probably buy the pay-per-view.
Probably. Yeah, Derek Lewis in the Tibera fight is only critical because I think whoever wins that fight will probably fight Curtis Blades, just as far as matchmaking goes. But as far as, any huge shifts on this card, it's a card pretty much all built on the main event.
Yep. And then Lewis was like, I'm gonna retire. Then he's like, I'm not gonna retire. So whoever wins or loses that fight, it's pretty sketch from there.
You think Derek Lewis is going to win?
I want to give him a win, and then I want to give him a retire. But if he wins, like I said, they're gonna put him against Curtis, and then I think Curtis faces him, beats him, and then he retires.
Yeah, I think it's better for Curtis if Derek Lewis wins because you're fighting off a more name because Derek Lewis with all the comments that he says about Ronda Rousey in post-fight interviews.
Oh, he says the dumbest stuff, and he's always like an idiot in all his interviews.
He's an idiot, but I mean he's a meme.
Yeah, correct.
Nobody knows who Tibera is. So what, we're having Tibera and Curtis Blades fight, so now we're having two nobodies really fight. So as far as like a marketing aspect goes, I
And
think
if you want to
better
pull
off
someone
Derek
in,
Lewis
yeah.
wins. So we'll probably do another chat here in next week, next Monday. We'll talk about just the results of the fight night, and then we're gonna dip into the featherweight division, see what's going on. We'll probably talk a little bit about UFC 222, Cyborg, and the Invicta champ. Apparently, she's fighting. See, that's another bad thing. We'll get into all
the people who come in and go like way higher than they should be.
Yeah, we'll come in and we'll talk about all that mixed matching, but definitely the featured conversation is for sure going to be Ortega versus Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that. That's my dude.
Exactly. So.
All right, well, take it easy, Kevin. This was the Combat Chat, man. Thanks for being here, Kev.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Peace.